Okay. This is a speaker meeting, and we are delighted to have Andy from Austria to share his experience, strength, and hope with us tonight. It's a bit of a strong accent for an Austrian, so listen tight, yeah? To introduce him, we have Randy G. from the USA.
Yeah, I'm Randy. I'm a drug addict and alcoholic. I am clean and sober because I like the effects produced by Cocaine Anonymous. Yeah, this is cool. When Andy called, I was like, oh, fuck yeah, I'm going to get this opportunity to, like, roast him in front of everybody. But that's not going to happen, I promise. I actually went back through the WhatsApp messages between the two of us, and the first one was in May of 2021. And I'm one of these old school guys that when the pandemic hit, I was like, what are we going to do? What's going to happen to Cocaine Anonymous? What's our world going to be like? What's our recovery going to be like? This is a face-to-face, heart-to-heart. This is a hug thing. You got to get the energy. And Zoom was not a thing for me, and I landed in this world of Zoom for a while. And I found this group of idiots that are all sitting up here that were all part of this picture right before everything started, called the Daily Reprieve. And, 7 days a week, certain time. In me, it was in the middle of the day in Arizona. It was 9 o'clock in the UK or some crazy number. And I watched it happen. I didn't think that would happen. I watched God find a way to keep Cocaine Anonymous alive, and not only alive, but thrive. And there were relationships, and there were individuals there that got to introduce each other, and there was this guy that just had this glow about him. And if you've hung out in the Zoom meetings with Andy, there's this glow, and it's not just because it's shiny off the top of his head. that there's this aura, and this energy. And we started to talk, and first you start in a little chat thing off to the side, and and you're giving whoever's talking shit about, whatever they're saying, and and then we started talking more, and we started talking about the book, and we started talking about recovery. And we put a group of people together, and we went through the big book. It took us a little over a year on Saturday mornings, and I watched it happen. And I watched Cocaine Anonymous take place in this man's life. There's no CA meetings in Austria. The opportunity for him to get what he needed from us came in a way that I only thought might not ever work. And I was glad that I was wrong. And we became good friends. We have had conversations that have went deep. Substance, depth, and weight, I think we like to call it. I've watched him have kids. I've watched him become a man, and I've watched him become a true representative. And what I mean by that is I think you remember when you say you are. You can come in these rooms and say, I'm a Cocaine Anonymous member. And then there's the participants. There's those that actually get service work and online service things with meetings, of which he's had all of those involved with the meeting. And that participant is important. And then there's this step that we call to become a Cocaine Anonymous representative. Because you can represent Cocaine Anonymous in all the areas of your life, not just for the 1 hour a day in between a couple prayers. But you can represent what Cocaine Anonymous is the other 23 hours of the day to your family, to your boys. And I watched that. So it is with great honor, and less of me and more of him is way more important. So with that, I'm going to give you Andy. Thanks, man.
Hi guys, my name's Andy and I'm an addict. First of all, I want to thank Mark and CEO Holland for putting on this amazing event. It's really a privilege to be here. I don't think I've ever been in a room with so many addicts before. So I want to start with some advice my sponsor shared with me. And that is, I never know what the people in the room need to hear at any occasion. So from the very beginning, I was told never plan your shares, because that's just my ego coming in. I think I know what little bits of nuggets, they maybe have worked for me, but that's not what you guys need to hear. Trying to make you look smart. There you go. So, he explained to me that only God knows what the people in the room need to hear. And I really believe that. I really follow that advice. What it means is I never prepare my shares. So more often than not, I take a couple of minutes and stumble around, and then hopefully my higher power takes over and there's a little bit of a message in there. So where to start, really? I come from the history of alcoholism, of addiction in my family. My mum referred to it as the family illness. And for me, growing up, what I know now is there were real early signs, symptoms of my disease long, long before I ever found a drink or a drug. I think probably the biggest symptom would be unmanageability. And this is something that I've struggled with for years. I continue to struggle with it. How does that manifest itself? Well, I was never, ever on time anywhere. I always left everything to the last minute. Things like school homework, I would leave it to literally the night before, sometimes the morning before. And already that justification in my head is working, I work best under pressure. I'm at my optimum under pressure. Unmanageability kind of developed through the years, if you like. So I wanted to share another example of that. And I had this innate fear of opening mail, of opening letters, because I was so afraid of what they would say inside. So I didn't open them. And so they sent more letters, and the fears grew. So I didn't open them. And more letters came, and this time the colour of the font changed. It went from black to red. In the UK, that means better fucking open the letter. But the fears grew. Until I was backed into a corner and I had no other opportunity. I've got debt collectors knocking on the door. Like, I have no other choice than to open the letters. And of course, what do I find? It's a disaster. And what does that do? It reinforces my fears that whenever I open the letters, it's bad news. Do you think I learned from that? No, I go straight back to not opening letters, and I find myself in this cycle of unmanageability. And within that, it's just constant stress in my life. It's constant. I remember growing up, I was really sporty. I did quite well academically, and it was my dream to be a pilot for the RAF. I went to university, maths, physics, chemistry, blah, 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 and I was convinced that I was the pilot, the next pilot the RAF were waiting for, and I remember walking into that recruitment office, like swinging the doors open. I'm the guy you've been waiting for. And I walked in there, and because I was diagnosed with asthma at 12 years old, they said they couldn't take me. No, I never had an asthma attack. I was later diagnosed with a chest infection. But for me, that was, up until that point, my life had been really focused in one direction, and then all of a sudden that direction was gone. And I remember feeling completely lost, directionless. I didn't know what to do. Like, everything had been so clear for me up to that point. It was not long after that, I think, that I really found drugs. because before that I'd been, trying to be healthy and what have you. And it started with weed. And it started with that self-justification of I'm an insomniac. Yeah, I need some weed to get to sleep. Now, I'm not an insomniac, I'm a drug addict. Yeah, and that means that my biggest fear is to be alone with my thoughts. So when I go to bed and I lie my head down on that pillow, that's torture time, because my head is doing this 100 miles an hour. It's having conversations with people I haven't met yet. It's rerunning conversations with people I spoke to earlier that day, earlier that week, earlier that month. If he'd have said that, I'd have said this. And then if he'd have said that, I'd have come back with this. And then he'd be wrong. And this went over and over and over. It was constant. My biggest fear was to be alone with my thoughts. It was horrible. So I started by smoking a joint out the window at university. And music was coming into my life, and as a consequence of that, we started experimenting with some other things. What do you know, they seemed to, for a time, quiet that craziness in my head. I'm going to kind of fast forward a little bit. I'm a cocaine addict, and I fucking love cocaine. And whilst lots of other drugs came and went, cocaine was always there and always went back to it. I have a couple of examples which, upon reflection, I can recognise really separated me from the majority or the normal people in association with my using, So one of them was, I lived in West Sussex, like an hour south of London, and I would be in London every weekend. Gigs on a Friday night, gigs on a Saturday night. My biggest fear now had evolved into playing a gig on a Friday night and not having any gear. Like, I couldn't face that prospect. That just wasn't a thing for me. So the one time I managed to engineer some manageability in my life was to ensure that I had that gear purchased, locked off on Thursday. And then I can just relax. I can get an early night. I can get a good night's rest. I've got a full day's work the next day, and then I can go up and start my weekend in the knowledge that things are taken care of and I don't worry. So I pick the gear up on a Thursday night, pick up an 8 or whatever it was, and then it starts. Then the head starts the self-justification. What if it's no good? You just got to, if it's no good, you've got time to resolve it. You come back, you can get another one, whatever it may be. Just have one. Let's just have a taste. Let's just test it's all right. Not a problem. And of course, my head always won. It wins every time. And I'd have one. And then instantly, this phenomenon of craving is set off. And now I'm having another argument in my head. The justification's going again. I'll just have half. Okay, I'll just have half. I can still go to bed at a reasonable time. I've still got 3 grams left for the next day. Half comes. And then what happened every single time? Every single time is I'm up all night. I've done all my gear. I've had no sleep. I've then got the prospect of a full day at work on Friday. I've got the prospect of driving up to London or wherever it is for this gig. And I haven't got any gear. Like, it was insane. And yet I repeated it week after week after week after week after week. It was mental. I tortured myself. And I couldn't not do that. I couldn't not taste it on the Thursday. Another example, for a while I was working with my pal, electrician. I remember going back to his house. It was a Tuesday or Wednesday night after work. He's like, "Oh, do you want a line?" I was like, "What? You got some gear?" He's like, "Yeah, I got some left from the weekend." what? Like, I still don't understand that. Like, genuinely, I didn't get it. What do you mean you've got some left? And it was like a half gram. What do you mean you got half left? See, for me, when I was using, I couldn't go to bed until it was all gone. For me, my using became like a war of attrition between me and this substance. Watching the time go by, the sun go down, the sun starts to come back up again, and I can't go to bed until it's all gone. I can't. I've got the plate and I'm snorting it up and 2/3 of the line's falling back down on the plate. It was mental, but normal people can have some fun, put it away. Oh, let's have a line on a Wednesday night. I didn't get it. It didn't make sense to me. I didn't understand it. And yet, my head tells me that I'm this intellectual guy with high common sense and I've got life down. It couldn't be any further from the truth. It really couldn't. So I want to fast forward to like 2010. My life was spiraling out of control. I was using pretty much every day. I was spread way too thin. I was trying to do this over here, full-time job here, this over here, and I couldn't cope. By this time in my life, cocaine had moved from being a luxury for me to being an absolute necessity. There weren't enough hours in the day for me to perform and achieve what I needed to do. I couldn't keep all the commitments I had, so something had to give. Well, the only thing that was left for me to give was sleep. And the only thing that facilitated that was cocaine. So 2010, I'm on the edge of a breakdown. That's the truth. And my head goes, yeah, but if you quit your music, that's the reason you do gear. And this job that you've been in for 14 years, where you're actually really successful, if you stay there any longer, you're going to become institutionalized. You've got to get out. But don't worry, you've got all this amazing experience. You'll walk into another job, it'll be brilliant. So I gave up my music career, and I gave up this job. And then I'm sat there wondering for the next year, what's going on? I didn't walk into another job. Ended up parking cars at Gatwick Airport. Then came a 7-year cycle where I'll get a new job. And I'm like, right, enough is enough. This is my opportunity to sort my life out once and for all. And I'd get clean. And I'd start the job, and it would go well. And my skin would get better, because I'm one of these addicts that, when I'm high, I'm in the mirror, I'm scratching, I'm squeezing, all that stuff. I was horrible. It was horrible. And like I say, life was going well. The job was going well until something happened. Someone didn't do something, or someone didn't train me, or something. Something went wrong, and instantly my disease is there. That's it. And the victim, Andy, comes in. They're all out to get me. They've done that on purpose. They've not told me on that. They've not told me that on purpose. They should have trained me this. They should have done it. They. How dare they? And very quickly, I'm back to using every day. Picking up on the way home from work. Often had a long commute. I'd stay up all night. Get to work late the next day, and it would be even worse. Just creating these consequences for myself over and over and over and over. And what I didn't understand was, it was my escape, the answer to all my problems, cocaine, that was perpetuating them. Because my head's going so crazy at life. This is the only thing that just for a moment just quietens that noise, that incessant noise. So what happened? I find another job, move on, and I get clean and sober, and for a while life would be great again. Skin would clear up, money situation would start to recover, until something went wrong. And this happened again and again and again. The crazy thing was, from the outside looking in, it would have looked like my career was going up on this really cool trajectory. But internally, I was just broken, getting more and more broken, more and more broken, more and more broken. Until in 2017, the opportunity came for me to move to Salzburg in Austria. Hence the accent. So I've always wanted to live and work abroad. When I first was sent to Salzburg in 2005, I fell in love with the place, I fell in love with the people. It's absolutely amazing. Most importantly, I didn't know anyone out there where I could get some gear. So then begins a year of sobriety. I was clean and sober for a year. I was walking places. I was getting fit. I was losing weight. You know, my skin was recovering. Life was on the up. Until I was at a party and someone had some gear. And then that was it. I was reconnected. And I suffer from a progressive disease. It only gets worse. It never gets better. It doesn't matter when I pause it, how much clean time I have. When I do it again, I'm exactly back to where I was before. So March 2020, the world went fucking crazy. COVID, lockdown. And I remember the weekend it happened. It was really mental at my work, you know. And I was like, this is it. I'm begging, this is it. This is my chance. This is my last chance to sort my life out, to get off the gear. It didn't happen like that. It got worse. Around this time, I was now smoking it. For the simple reason that I remember doing a line. And I genuinely thought if I did a single more line, my fucking nose is going to fall off. Like, I genuinely believed that. My morning routine was getting up and I would put my nose under a tap, flush it with water, and I'm tweezers pulling out these like big crusty lumps and scabs. Every day that had become normal for me. That was my life, you know. So I'm smoking crack, and I was living a totally double life. In lockdown, in a tiny little flat with my girlfriend. I was able during lockdown to leave the house 6 times a week because a dear neighbour, needed dialysis. And me thinking I'm such a good guy, I was driving him there and picking him up. But of course it gave me carte blanche to continually ensure I had a stockpile of gear, you know. And more than anything, what I remember about this time is the total loneliness. I was completely alone. I didn't have a roof on my balcony, so when it would rain, I would say to my girlfriend, I've got to go downstairs for a cigarette because there's a roof. And I'll be in my cellar washing up, smoke, wash, smoke. 45 minutes an hour, go back upstairs. 10 minutes later, I'm going for another cigarette. You know, it was mental. My secret life started spilling out into my normal life. And here's what it looked like for me at the end. It's midnight, it's 1 o'clock in the morning. And I'm looking at my clock, my watch. If I can get sleep in and out, I'm lying in bed, sweating, you know how it is, you can't move, you're fucking wired, you know. If I can just get to sleep in an hour, I'll get 5 hours. I could deal with 5 hours, it'd be fine. Have an early night, no problem. Tick, tock, tick, tock, tick, tock. It's 2 o'clock in the morning. If I can just get to sleep in an hour, I'll have 4 hours. I can deal with 4 hours. That'll be fine. Tick, tock, tick, tock. It's 3 o'clock in the morning. It's 4 o'clock in the morning. It's 5 o'clock in the morning. And at this point, because I've been alone in my head all this time, don't forget, I am now lying in bed, crying. How has this happened again? How did I get here again? I swear on my life, I am never doing this ever again. And then there's this thing that my disease has. It's this amazing tool called the peculiar mental blank spot. And come the evening, more often than not, come the afternoon, regularly it was lunchtime, and by the end it was on the way to work. I have no recollection, I have no connection with that pain and suffering of merely a few hours before. None. All I know is I need more of that stuff, and I need it in me, and when it's in me, things are going to be all right. It was Groundhog Day. And with each day that passed, I hated myself more. What is wrong with me? Why can't I do this? How do I keep ending up here? And this didn't go on for a couple of days or a couple of weeks. It was months. Until I careered into what I thought was my rock bottom. August. Flying back to the UK. I'm in my best mate's garage like we always did when I went back. Getting fucked up. You know, watching a bit of MotoGP, playing a bit of PlayStation, whatever it was. And I remember, I think retrospectively now, subconsciously, I was trying to shock this guy, and I'm sitting there and washing it up in front of him. We'd only ever done lives before. And I remember breaking down. It's like, man, I can't do this. I need help. I was flying to Germany for 6 days on the way back to Austria, and this was an enforced kind of clean time. I knew I couldn't get any when I was out there. He has no connection with CA, my best friend. The next day, he messaged me and sent me a number. Said, this guy's going to give you a call. Now, through his kids, friends, mums, husband, I don't fully understand the connection, but this guy reached out to me. God saved my life, along with all you lot. And he got me through those 6 days. I got back to Austria, and in the meantime, there's this three-way pursuit of information finding myself, Andy, my sponsor, and my best mate. And we're all online, we're all trying to understand what's going on in Austria, what's the recovery. There's no CA in Austria. I don't think I even knew about CA, honestly, before this time. I knew very much about AA. My mum was in the fellowship. She was clean and sober 29 years before she passed. So I figured I was an NA guy, you know, cocaine and crap being my thing. There was one NA meeting in Austria at that time, in Vienna, 3.5 hours drive away, once a week. And there is AA, don't get me wrong, but it's German speaking, and my German certainly wasn't up to scratch then. But as Randy mentioned, the fellowships have all moved online. The first meeting I went to was this men's meeting out of West Sussex. I was so nervous of my recovery. I didn't understand anonymity. I remember driving to this car park with my laptop and sitting there with a hotspot. I was so nervous of somebody overhearing or whatever. I remember sitting in that meeting online in the passenger seat of my car. Listen to these guys sharing about how I used, how I thought, and how I felt. And for the first time in my life, I thought, oh my God, I'm not alone. Couldn't believe it. I really couldn't believe it. And he said to me, look, I'm happy to temporarily sponsor you until we can find you somebody in person. And he started taking me through the work. He was very clear about this triangle, you know, unity, service, recovery. Got to stay in the middle of the triangle. He gave me all the tools. But you see, I think I know better. And I foolishly thought that in the rooms of recovery I was safe from my ego. I found this amazing meeting, Daily Reprieve. For me, it was at 10:30 at night. I went 7 days a week for as long as I can remember. Because I knew if I could get to the meeting, I could get to bed clean and sober. And my sponsor still tells me today, the only thing that matters is getting to bed tonight, clean and sober. Anything else is a bonus. And you know what? Some days, genuinely, that's all I can hope for is to make it to bed, clean and sober. Anyway, I got some service positions. I did as I was told. And I started getting like positive feedback from my service, you know, secretary, and oh yeah, and you're doing a great job. And so I'm putting down the pray, and the gratitude lists are coming like more and more sparingly. Meditation was something it took me 2 years to really embrace in my daily routine. And I fucking relapsed. I had all my recovery loaded on this one side of the triangle, the service side. I was so nervous to reach out to people. And my head would tell me this stuff. They're going to be too busy. They don't want to hear from you. They don't want to hear your problems. I didn't understand that when two addicts connect, both of them, they help each other. Both of them benefit. So I'm going round and round, and I couldn't understand why I couldn't get it. I thought I was ready, you know. I look back now with an immense amount of gratitude for my relapses because I needed them. They took me from where I was to where I needed to be. But it was horrendous at the time. It was absolutely horrendous going through that. I think now maybe I was grieving, honestly, for my drug. It had been the one true constant in my life from my teenage years all the way through to my 40s. Happy times, sad times, you know. Births, deaths, marriages, divorces. It was the one thing that was always there. It always had my back. At least that's what I told myself. Until March 2021. During this 7-8 month period, it was incredibly difficult time for my partner. And she's doing a bit of research. And I remember her making me sit down and watch this video with her, where it explained that an addict needs to hit their rock bottom and you can't stand in the way of it. But there's no saying when that rock bottom's going to be. Anything you do out of love to prevent that actually makes it worse. And on top of that, I remember another conversation. She's pregnant with my firstborn, right? And she's sitting on the sofa in tears. Am I not enough? Is your unborn son not enough? Well, of course they were enough, but I couldn't stop. Because I'm a fucking addict and I suffer from the disease of addiction. I am powerless. Powerless. What I do remember is it got to the point, like the relapses were so frequent, you know, that and I couldn't stop lying about it. I'm trying to hide it. Even when she caught me, right? It's like I put the fucking thing behind my back. I'm not doing anything. And she goes, I can see it in the reflection. Like I couldn't not lie. But I remember sitting on the sofa with her and she's in tears. She's absolutely bawling her eyes out. I don't care if you relapse. Just don't lie to me. Don't lie to me anymore. And I couldn't not. Until my last relapse. It was the first time I was honest with her about it. It was the first time. And yeah, I have a little analogy for this so-called step one's experience surrender, whatever you want to call it. For me, it's like falling in love. And when you're young, get your first girlfriend or boyfriend. And you're like, oh, I'm so in love, they're amazing. And it lasts 2 weeks, 3 weeks if you're lucky, and you split up. And the next one comes along, and it's the same thing, particularly for people like us. It's just, oh, I'm going to marry her. She's beautiful. We're going to have an amazing future together. And maybe it lasts a few months, maybe a bit longer, and you split up. The next one comes along, oh, our babies are going to be gorgeous. And it doesn't work out. You break up, you split up, and you split up. And then that one person does come along, and you do fall in love. Oh my God, I get it. I know now why they wrote those songs. I know now why they made those movies. See, intellectually, I thought I'd fallen in love until I felt it in here. True love. And for me, that was exactly the same with my surrender. I thought I'd hit rock bottom. Can't get any worse. It did. I've definitely hit rock bottom now. I'm definitely ready for it now. Can't do this anymore. And it kept going and it kept going and it kept going until that day. And in that moment, I knew, and more importantly, I was okay with the fact, I accepted the fact that I can never drink or use ever again. But I'm gonna, that's my default. I'm a drug addict, yeah? So I do this. And God willing, one day at a time, I haven't drunk or used since that day. The steps are really amazing. I love everything about the history of AA, and for me it's particularly special that I get to read the same book and work the same steps as my mum did. It's a really big regret for me that I didn't come out while she was still alive. I look back at all those conversations we had. Andy, you're so unmanageable. Yeah, I know. Didn't get it until I really started doing the work, and then all these pennies are dropping left, right, and centre. I have a disease that controls me through fear. My disease has one sole purpose in my life today, and that's to separate me from my recovery. Because when it does that, I want a slippery slope. I have to be super mindful. I suffer from this new peculiar mental blank spot sometimes in recovery. And that is self-will's creeping back in. I'm starting to get a bit squirrely. And my disease somehow shields from me that simple set of spiritual tools that will instantly resolve my problem. Now, fortunately for me, the longer I'm in recovery, the more I do it, the quicker I am to recognize what's going on and implement the right tools. Some days are better than others. I have to be on guard all the time. But the tools really are simple, and they really, really do work. The funny thing about the steps, it seems very daunting at the beginning. God, higher power, inventory, what you want me to write down, everything, right? Amends, The steps are only scary until you've done them. And more often than not, you come out of the step going, I understand, I get the necessity of that. Like it was clearly necessary because I'm now like this and I was like that. But for me, genuinely, more often than not, I come out and it's like one of the most beautiful experiences I've ever had in my life. And men's was just, I was so scared going into my procrastinator. That's another one thing I'm great at, procrastination. And it got to the point as I'm working through my men's, I couldn't wait to do the next one. I couldn't wait to do the next one. Turns out it was pretty much all in my head, I'm incredibly fortunate that post-COVID, CA in particular has kept a presence on Zoom, and actually we're starting to see it grow. It's really surreal for me to be in a room with actual people and not squares. There are so many people in this room who have had and continue to play a massive part in my recovery. I'm so grateful to each and every one of you. I can't put it into words. That's one thing that recovery gives me is gratitude. One thing that online recovery gave me is the opportunity to connect with my fellows globally, to meet people from Seattle, Phoenix, Darien, Reading, UK, South Africa, you name it, Thailand. I don't think if I'd have done in-person CA, I would have ever met a fraction of the people that I'm fortunate enough to call my fellows today, but more importantly, my friends. The amount of experience, the amount of quality recovery that I'm connected to, I don't feel worthy of it. There's one thing that I've learned above everything else from these years and years and years of recovery. If you want quality recovery, you've got to carry the message. All of these guys with 25, 30, 35 years, the one thing that they still do is work with newcomers. And I've really taken that on board. Monday's this guy, Tuesday's this guy. Don't miss your session because there ain't any others. We can't slip into another one. But it's really, truly about sponsorship. And the beautiful thing about sponsorship is it's not that you're just helping one person, It's that if you help that one person who helps another person who helps another person and you instill in them the importance of sponsorship, you get a fellowship that grows. Randy taught me that. One of the many things. So I sponsor my arse off today. I have to. Because I live a life beyond my wildest dreams. 4 years ago, I was sitting in the same flat, with the same job, with the same partner, driving the same car. And I was in a living hell, and I couldn't see a way out. And today I sit in the same flat, working the same job, with the same partner, driving the same car, and I'm in heaven. I'm living this life beyond my wildest dreams. I can be alone with my head now. I'm not afraid of going to bed. I really was afraid of going to bed. I'd do my girlfriend's head in. Why don't you just go to bed? You're so tired. And I wouldn't go to bed until I knew that as soon as my head hit that pillow, I was going to pass out. And I can now. At 60 days, my first son was Oliver. He's the most amazing human being in the world. And nothing quite teaches you how to live in the present than a toddler. At 2 years and 3 days, my second son, Benedict, was born. I'm so grateful. I'm so grateful. because you allow me to be a dad, to be a father. Recovery gives me the ability, the opportunity to experience all these new types of love I didn't know existed. I thought love was lust. I didn't know what love was. And I get to experience it on a daily basis through the screens, you know. My professional life has never been better than it is right now. My personal life has never been better than it is right now. My relationship has never been better than it is right now. And it's all down to this program of recovery, diligently doing my daily routine, connecting with others, going to meetings, and most importantly, carrying the message. I have to carry the message. I have this thing inside me. It's like the longer I'm in recovery, the more I realize I need it. Not want it, need it. I hope I never, ever lose that. So, quick word about sponsorship. It's scary, right? I'm sitting there thinking, how on earth can I do a job as well as my sponsor did for me? But like everything in this program, mate, you've just got to walk through the fear. You've just got to walk through the fear. So yeah, sponsorship's challenging. Sponsorship can be really fucking frustrating. I remember the first time a sponsor left me, whoa. The only thing in my life that I could compare it to is when I got dumped by a girlfriend. That's what it felt like. Because you have that sort of intimate relationship, like you share stuff that you don't kind of share with anyone else. I've had phone calls with Randy, with my sponsor, like when a guy relapses yet again, like what am I doing wrong? Like what message did my sponsor give me that I'm not transmitting to the fellows? And Andy turns around and goes, are you clean and sober? And I'm like, yeah. He goes, well, you got a 100% record then. So I do this because it keeps me clean and sober and it continues to give me this amazing life. And as a byproduct of that, people along the way get clean and sober. And then they go forward and carry that message. So if you've done your steps, yeah, and you're worried about doing a main share, walk through the fear. If you've done the steps and you're worried about sponsoring, put your hand up. We're all here to support you, you know, and you're not actually doing anything other than what you've already got experience for. You read a book. Yeah? You're just a guide, nothing more. The whole purpose of this program is to connect me with a power greater than myself that will solve my problem. I can't connect you with my power, whatever. It's got to come from you. It's got to come from within. My own experience tells me that. There's no formula I can give you. I wish there was. I wish I could bottle this stuff up and go, here, I'll take this, and you'll be ready. I wish. But also my own experience tells me I've got to find that on my own. I can't do it intellectually. It's got to come from within. So, we're out of time. So yeah, look, I'm really grateful for the opportunity to do this. I was really super scared. I'm still super nervous. It's very rare for me to talk to actual people in a room about recovery. But I am so, so grateful for Zoom. I'm so, so grateful for Cocaine Anonymous, you know. And I'm so, so grateful for each and every single one of you. One in this room today, but two in this convention, because this is mind-blowing for me. It's absolutely mind-blowing, you know. It's like meeting TV stars or something, you know what I mean? Like, oh my God, Shane's real. Look, there's Sugar Shane, there's Chris S, Tony, Patty, Leslie, Lucy, Randy. Dad and my brother, man. D. My DR crew, man. So yeah, I don't think there's much more for me to say other than, if you'll permit me 20 more seconds, I'd like to share with you a short passage from the Big Book of Alcoholics Anonymous. It's actually not in the first 164 pages, it's at the bottom of page 181. It's the last paragraph in Dr. Bob's Nightmare. If you think you're an atheist, an agnostic, a skeptic, or have any other form of intellectual pride which keeps you from accepting what is in this book, I feel sorry for you. If you still think you're strong enough to beat the game alone, that's your affair. But if you really and truly want to quit drinking liquor for good and all, and sincerely feel that you must have some help, we know that we have an answer for you. It never fails. If you go about it with one half the zeal you have been in the habit of showing when you were getting another drink. My name's Andy. I'm a drug addict.
Thanks everyone, my name's Johnny, I'm an addict.
Hi, Johnny.
Time is up. If you have any questions that went unanswered, or if you feel you need to share, please introduce yourself to somebody and exchange phone numbers. We are here to help. I would like to close by having Darren from South Africa read a vision for you.
Come on, D.
What's up, guys? I'm Dira, an alcoholic addict and a grateful member of Cocaine Anonymous. A vision for you. Our book is meant to be suggestive only. We realize we know only little. God will constantly disclose more to you and to us. Ask Him in your morning meditation what you can do each day for the man who is still sick. The answers will come. If your own house is in order. But obviously you cannot transmit something you haven't got. See to it that your relationship with Him is right. And great events will come to pass for you and countless others. This is a great fact for us. Abandon yourself to God as you understand God. Admit your faults to Him and to your fellows. Clear away the wreckage of your past. Give freely of what you find and join us. We shall be with you in the fellowship of the Spirit. And you will surely meet us, some of us, as you trudge the road of happy destiny. May God bless you and keep you until then. Amen.
Lonely, dark place, but disconnected from everyone and everything, to possibly connected to hundreds of people all over the world. Helene, I'm going to ask you, after a moment of silent meditation for the addict who still suffers, would Helene, would you please lead us out with a serenity prayer? Thank you.